Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is part 2 of the census model, video explainers and that kind of stuff. This is part 2, Federation for American Immigration Reform. I've decided to extend it to 7 parts, and well, the uploading, I don't really know what is going to be done with that. Yeah, regarding feedback, if it's going to be a daily thing until the project is finished, or if I'm just going to do spreading out over the weeks. So here I have the apportionment numbers. So I already showed you this tab, and what happens just here is I'm changing it to column 3 and then take the apportionment values. So what happens here is the order is significantly changed with the illegal immigration, and what happens here is, for an example, the final let's take the final 10. So if North Carolina, their additional House seat is there. West Virginia retains their seat. Colorado still gains their seat. Pennsylvania retains their seat, and you have Texas, who this is their 37th seat. So on the edge, on the low side, below the edge value, Idaho's 3rd Congressional District, California's 50th, so California loses 3. Missouri with their 9th district, New York with their 27th Congressional District, so status quo, and they have Tennessee with their 10th Congressional District. So what you see here is also another thing is that Ohio retains their seat. And you have, let's see, over here you have Michigan retaining their seat. So what it looks like here is just that. West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan, they each gain a congressional seat, so bringing them back to the congressional seats that they had in the 2010 census. So 16 for Michigan, 18 for Ohio, 20 for Pennsylvania, and you have 5 for West Virginia. Texas loses 1, so they go to, instead of 40 they would have 39. And here you have California losing 3 congressional districts. So I made a nice little image of it, just a quick explainer what it's looking like. So in this particular case, you'll find that the Electoral College is a lot more Republican favorable, including the congressional districts on the House level. And then we use the post-enumeration, and it's basically the same thing, but then I also compensate for the overcounting, and then you'll find that the order changes a little more. Let's see, I forgot this, so quick fix. There you go. Isn't it fun how Excel works? Best piece of software, in my opinion. So we go from 81, so here is the border, and I just use these districts. So we find California's 49th district is within the border, then Louisiana's 7th district, so Louisiana gains 1, Oregon's 6th, so as it is, Pennsylvania's 18th, and we have Missouri's 9th, so Missouri also gains a seat. Below the border you have Texas 38, so Texas loses a seat. West Virginia's 3rd, California's 50th, New York's 26th, and Iowa's 5th district, just below the border in there. So that's quite a radical change in comparison to the rest. So compensating for the overcounting, we have Colorado, Minnesota, I have Rhode Island. For the overcounting, that's significant because this was basically what happened the last time around. Then we have, as compensation for it, we have Tennessee gaining 1, we have Florida gaining 1, we have Idaho gaining 1. Or you can do Louisiana, Missouri, doesn't particularly matter. Then we'll find New York And Texas, they lose 4 seats combined. Of New York loses 1, Texas loses 1, and California loses 3. And those seats would then, in this particular section, go to Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So we still have the same thing happening last time, because last time around we had Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia gaining their seats. From those four, 3 are retaining that additional seat, but West Virginia moves to Idaho. And then from the other seats, so that is the -3 from California and the -1 from Texas. When it comes to the other 4 redistributed seats, we have Colorado, which would move to Florida. Minnesota would move to Louisiana. New York would move to Tennessee, and Rhode Island would move to Louisiana. Seats. So we can see here, if we do this, it's even more Republican favorable, because that Floridian seat would be a red seat. The one in Louisiana would be a Republican seat. The one in Tennessee would probably be a Republican seat. The one in Missouri is definitely a Republican seat. And the 3 in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan would be Republican seats. The one in Idaho would basically be Boise, Idaho, and it would be a Republican seat. The ones removed, Minnesota, would probably be A.G. Craig's district. The one in Rhode Island is a Democrat district. The one in Colorado, with the election, is a Democrat district. And the 3 in California will also be Democrat districts. So what we find here is that this is significantly overestimating Democrat support in America. Significant problem. So again, I think I'm just going to make a playlist, and then adding to it, I'm going to move that to a congressional issue, and I think I want to contact a few congressmen here and there. I'm definitely going to try for my personal one, seeing if I can get him to acknowledge the issue. And that would be a very good way of entering the fray, I suppose. So we have this. This is part 2, Federation for American Immigration Reform. I can go over the individual numbers here, but it is it isn't really, it's self-explanatory. I can open this link, I suppose. You know, it should work. Here you go. So 404 not found. Okay, that's pretty cool. So maybe this one. There you go. Okay, so they pulled the 2019 one, and they updated it with the 2021. That's fine. So basically, you can take whichever tellers you want. Let's see which one I took. 2.7. Yeah, so I took the one on the right. So illegal immigration and the U.S.-born children. Thing is, we don't want to separate kids from their parents. I think that's a very horrible practice. So when we deport illegal immigrants, we should deport their kids as well. That's my opinion. That would be the most humane thing to do. Because of this matter, it's also important that the nations where they come from, they need to have a newer generation to fix the issues that currently exist. If we take all the children and let them be Americans, then their nation is going to retain that status, that, as Donald Trump explained so eloquently, their shithole status. And we want to get rid of that status for these individual nations. So for an example, Nicaragua, El Salvador, they're like, 50 murders per 100,000 citizens? That's going to retain as long as these people keep moving to the US. The way we fix the issue is by tackling it over there. And that's the same thing with pretty much any issue when it comes to industry, when it comes to climate, when it comes to economy. They need to fix their own issues. And if they need help, for an example, knowledge, we can provide that. If they need funding, we can provide that. But we need to be the ones in control of that fund. Because if we just dump a pile of money there, these are corrupt governments, they're going to claim all the money for themselves, and the issue remains. That is a problem. And it remains a problem as long as we don't do accurate and fiscally and morally responsible policy. This kind of policy is lacking with pretty much any Western government. And it is not because they're idiots, well, they are, but it's not why the issue remains. It is the issue because similarly with troubleshooting, like I have experience in, you don't want to make yourself obsolete. This is exactly what every single government worker does. You don't want yourself to become obsolete, because if you are, you're out of a job. So what happens with these government workers is they create an issue, or they have an issue, they create a solution that has a new issue in it. And because of that, they retain their position. If all issues were solved, and preemptively solved, in the case of troubleshooting, for an example, there are manufacturing of particular parts, and there's a structural issue, we can solve the structural issue, which means I don't have to troubleshoot on the individual machines that are broken down, but at the same time, I won't have this issue again in the future. And the thing for a troubleshooter is, okay, I have solved the issue, and it doesn't exist anymore. That means I have less work to do. And because of that, my boss is going to say, okay, we have less issues, so we also need less troubleshooters. So you're basically shooting yourself in the foot and saying like, okay, we fixed the issues, they're no longer here, and now I don't have a job. It's the same with government workers. Congressmen, sheriffs, policemen, it's all the same thing. They don't want a quiet day, because if they have the quiet day, then the budget's going to get cut. This is the exact same reason what you see at the end of the fiscal year, every single year, is where government agencies, they clean up their budget. They're just going to buy random garbage. Bullets, guns, equipment. You see things like the IRS spending $20 million on buying handguns and ammunition for it. And you think, okay, what does the Internal Revenue Service need guns for? They're finishing their budget. And with finishing the budget, they can retain the budget for the next year. And because the federal government looks like, oh yeah, you have your budget is at 99% expenditure, we need to increase your budget, otherwise you can't do it next year. So it's a scam. Every single year. And this is where fiscally responsible policy needs to come in, which again doesn't exist. Because the government, any government, has infinite funds to spend. They can just print it. And as a result, you'll find that fiscally responsible policy no longer is capable of existing in this modern world of Keynesian, hyper-retarded, communist bullshit. That's just a fact. And as long as this isn't fixed, you'll find that this is financially big trouble. Thank you kindly. Apologies for the rant. Later on, that's fine, I suppose. So we have the post-enumeration. Explain this thoroughly. This was part 2. I'll hope to wrap up the entire series later today. Basically all the data is already done, and we're going to move on to part 3, which is the pure research data. Thank you kindly for watching. Like if you did, share, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time in part 3. Cheers.